Vicious dogs attacking peaceful protesters in the South. People getting hosed down by firemen just to break up a protest. This does not sound like our police. Today, during the civil rights movement, the police used brutal tactics against African Americans. People thought that police could stop the protests with violence, but there was a different effect. The violence of police brutality in the South helped unite people across racial barriers and positively affect change in the civil rights movement. During the civil rights movement, police brutality in the southern states was a common occurrence, especially in Mississippi and Alabama. These states were the most segregated, and the police used excessive force against African Americans and enforced the illegal segregation laws of the state. In Alabama, Eugene Bull Connor was the state commissioner of public safety and controlled the police officers and firemen. Quoted by PBS, he was known as an ultra-segregationalist with close ties with the KKK. The police also allowed the illegal behavior of the Ku Klux Klan, and some of the police force were actually members. The KKK was an organization that was against African American race and felt African Americans were a lower class than white citizens. Police also jailed protesters unnecessarily during peaceful sit-ins and marches. The jails were full of protesters in Mississippi and Alabama. In Alabama, Bull Connor said, "We are not going to stand up for this in Birmingham, and if necessary, we will fill the jails full and we don't care whose toes we step on." Bull Connor authorized police to use brutal force in unnecessary circumstances. Police allowed dogs to attack marchers. During the March of Selma, tear gas was used to break up the crowd. Police ordered 100 pounds of pressurized water to be sprayed by the local firemen on gathering African Americans. Angry mobs of racist Caucasians encouraged the cruel actions of the police during arrests or beatings. Newsmen and photographers caught some of the police brutality with news cameras and photos. These images were published to the national news as well as across the world. In the northern states, people were horrified by what was happening in the South. This is one of the reasons why people united together to abolish racism. White Northerners came down by bus to join protests in the South, which led to freedom rides to Alabama and Mississippi. On Mother's Day, May 15th, 1961, one of the worst acts of police brutality occurred. A mob of more than 100 Klansmen attacked a bus of freedom riders in Alliston, Alabama. The Klansmen destroyed the bus by slashing the tires, breaking the windows, and setting it on fire. Bull Connor said to the Klansmen that 15 or 20 minutes would go on before any police would arrive. Many well-known celebrity musicians and politicians were shocked and reacted by joining marches and raising awareness. Musicians like Bob Dylan, Sam Cooke, and Joan Baez made songs about racism that brought awareness to people across America and the world. Music sent a message across the radios and televisions and brought more people to the civil rights movement. Since so many artists joined the civil rights movement, it made it more difficult for police brutality to continue. President Kennedy was working on new laws right before he got shot. His vice president, Lyndon Johnson, became president and passed these laws to stop segregation and racism. The violence of police brutality in the South helped unite people across racial barriers and positively affected change in the civil rights movement. The shock across the world from police brutality brought the needed attention to the stop of unfair treatment of African Americans in the United States. Even though these horrifying incidents happened, it shaped the America we know and love today.